What happened was we lost early in the postseason, so Coach Summit decided that we were going to go back to work. So we came back and began, 2.5-hour practices, and they were very intense. Amber was practicing against the practice team and had a player run into her, one of the practice players run into her as she was setting the screen, and her arm was in a precarious situation.
I mean, originally when I tore my shoulder after the season was over, I wasn't going to have surgery. I was going to rehab and things like that, but it didn't go too well. So finally, Jenny and I and the doctors decided, the best thing for me to do was to have the shoulder surgery.
The shoulder procedure went fine. Everything went fine in surgery. There were no indications there was any problem. She was in the recovery room, and that's when the trouble began.
My lungs filled with fluid, so they had to put me on a breathing tube. I went into ICU. I started to get better again, and then I was laying in the bed in ICU, and I grabbed my head and was telling my mom how I had a really bad headache and things like that, so they started running tests.
They ran MRIs, they ran CT scans, they were running blood work, they were trying to figure out what was happening in this young, healthy, vivacious, athlete.
A couple days later, they found finally that I had a stroke on the right part of my brain, and then that the middle part was filled with fluid, but still they hadn't found the aneurysm, but they knew something else was there. And they decided that the best thing for me was to fly me to Cincinnati, where they have a neuro institution. And I was in Cincinnati for about a week, ran a lot of different tests, still never found anything. It wasn't until one day they ran the final test and they went up through my groin. And that's when they found the aneurysm. So basically what they saw was I had the stroke in the right part of my brain, the aneurysm was in the back part of my brain, and then in the middle was filled with blood. So I went in surgery that Monday. It was a 12.5-hour surgery. Went in, everything was fine. As soon as they cut into the brain, the aneurysm exploded.
He just touched it and it exploded. So basically she was a walking time bomb.
I woke up, I was asking for my mom and some water and things like that, so they were really excited about that.
There was a long recovery. Obviously a 12-hour surgery, and the extent of the surgery, the extent of the trauma, the stroke aspect, she did lose function in her left leg. She lost function in her eye tracking ability, memory situations, things that are commonly associated with a stroke.
I mean, obviously, I knew my teammates and my coaches and my family were going to be there for me, but the fans, they have supported me throughout the whole thing. I mean, even to this day, I walk out of the tunnel to go onto the court for a game, and I still get standing applause, and, it feels good. I've gotten over 500 thank you, get well cards, and, different things like that, so the support has been great.
Anything that gets her closer to a more normal, healthy, productive life. I mean, let's face it, she's alive. She's going to be an outstanding citizen and contributor to this society. And who could ask for anything more at that point? So anything that comes out of this is bonus, in my opinion.
It's my favorite Bible verse, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And that's saying, things are going to get thrown at you. It might be on the court, it might be just in life altogether, but you got to be able to push through, because at the end of the day, there's a purpose for it. And so I think if anything I want to tell anybody is that continue to push through the hard times, because the light will shine, and you'll get your opportunity to do whatever it may that you want to do. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned throughout this whole thing.
If you look back on all the series of events, the shoulder surgery probably saved your life.